Hello everyone, I am Pooja Soni. I am Assistant Professor in the branch of Pharmacology in Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Rama University, Kanpur. Today I am here to represent a topic which is cardiovascular system, and this topic is taken from the subject HAP, Human Anatomy. This subject you will learn in the semester B Form and in the semester D Form. So, before move on to the main topic cardiovascular system, we have to understand the meaning of cardiovascular system or the actual meaning of the term cardiovascular system. If we divide this term, the cardiovascular system, so we will get a cardio means a heart, and vascular means vessels, that is blood vessels, right, and the system. So, what is the system? System is a group of things. In the case of HAP or in the case of this cardiovascular system, there is a something organs or parts that will involve in this system. If we talk like about the respiratory system, so in the respiratory system, all respiratory organ include in this, right? And in the case of GIT, digestive system, all the GIT organ, that is stomach, liver, intestine, small intestine, large intestine, all organs include in this system. So, in the case of cardiovascular system, all cardiovascular organs are involved in this term, right. So, the main organ in the CVS is the heart and blood. Since we all know that the cardiovascular system is a very vast topic in itself. So, we will just discuss about the introductory part of the cardiovascular system. And cardiovascular system also known as a circulatory system. And if we are talking about the main function of cardiovascular system, so the main function of cardiovascular system is to circulate the all nutrients and important material and required material to the all part of the body. Okay. If we talk about the important points, before going to the important points, we will just discuss about if we compare our heart with the normal water pump or a tube bell pump which we have in our household things. So, what is the main function of that water pump or the tube bell pump is to transport the water from one place to the another place, right. It will transport that water from down surface to the upper surface or the upper tank which is placed in our roof or our roof of the house, right. So, in the case of heart will transport the blood in the all part of the body, right. If we look at here, like there is a brain and there is a heart, there is a hand and there is a leg which are quite far away, which are located quite far away from the heart. So, it will be difficult to transport all the nutrients, right. So, we have a need of some transporting system, right, so that it transport all the organic materials, all the nutrients and all the required materials to transport these organs, so that these organs perform their functions properly. So, there will be a heart that work as a pump, and there will be a medium which is the blood. So, we can say the blood is a transporting medium, right. So, it is a transporting medium which convey all the nutrients, and the one of the most important function of the blood that it not only transport the required material or the nutrients, but also it discharge or it excrete out the wastage material which is built up in our cell of the organ. So, it will also discharge it in the as a excretion via filtering unit, via kidney or via lungs. So, and if we see like example, if we go in another city and we just want to travel from one place to another place, then there will be a lots of conveyance, right, like a bus, metro, rickshaw, auto rickshaw, so on. So, we will go from one place to another place easily. So, there is a these all are the medium, right. So, to transport from one place to another, if we go in another place, we can easily go, right. So, here is a blood which transport all these things and it acts like a transporter. Okay. Now, we will discuss about the important point of the cardiovascular system. So, if we are talking about the main position of the heart, is it located in the medium sternum. You all know that sternum is located like there, here is a ribs, and the heart is located here in the medium of sternum. Here is a, this is the sternum, and there this is the heart. So you can see like the heart is slowly left towards the left, right? This is left and this is right. So it is slightly to the left, and the shape of the heart is conical shape, and it is look about your closed feet. You can see like this. So the heart is look like a your closed feast, and the apex is narrow and the base is wider. Okay, and the color of your heart is red. The weight is 250 and 300 gram. If you compare your heart weight of a male and female, then female has a slightly lower heart weight than compared to male. And the color of your heart is red, I already told, and the size of your heart is about 12 centimeter in length, 9 centimeter in width, 6 centimeter in thickness. And the main function of heart is to circulate the blood to all over the body. Now, the main covering of heart, there are three main covering. First is myocardium, pericardium, second one is myocardium, and third one is endocardium. Since pericardium is the superficial layer, it is divided into two parts, that is fibrous and serous layer. Serous layers further divided into two, that is parietal and visceral. These both are separated by the cavity that is known as parietal cavity. Okay. So this is a parietal cavity which is filled with the parietal fluid. We can say it is separated by the parietal cavity which is filled with the parietal fluid, and the main function of pericardium is to provide the friction free movement so that the heart do not get frictions with the another organs, right. Now, second layer is the myocardium. This is the second innermost layer, and this is made up of the special type of cardiac muscles and has the striations. Since we all know that the skeleton muscles have the striations, but they are voluntary control, right. But this is not a voluntary control, so they have no voluntary control. Now, the third one is endocardium, that is the innermost layer made up of epithelial cells, flattened epithelial cells, and the main function of that endocardium is to provide the flow of blood with smoothly, or we can say like a smooth flow of blood. So now move on to the gross anatomy of the heart. So if we divide our heart longitudinally like this, so it will divided into two parts, that is right heart and the left heart, right. And if we divide our heart horizontally, then it will divided into two parts, that is atrium and ventricle, right. So from this division we have a 4 chambers. These are right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle and left ventricle. You can see here is also, that is right atrium, this is right ventricle, this is left atrium, and this is the left ventricle. Now, to separate these atrium and this ventricle, there is a valve present that is known as the right atrioventricular valve. This right atrioventricular valve is also known as tricuspid valve, which prevent the backflow of the heart, and the left atrium and left ventricle are separated with the valve that is known as the left atrioventricular valve, which is also known as bicuspid valve, and another name is mitral valve, which is also prevent the backflow of the heart. Now, there are two main large veins, that is superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. The main function of superior vena cava is to collect the blood from upper part of the body, and the inferior vena cava collect the blood from lower part of the body. And since we know that atrium is also known as the receiving chamber, so it receives something what? Blood. It receives blood from where? Superior vena cava and from inferior vena cava. So, we can also say the ventricle is known as the discharging chamber. So, it discharges blood from the pulmonary artery, and so right ventricle discharge the blood from the pulmonary artery towards the lungs, and the left ventricle discharge blood from the aorta towards the all over the body. From the pulmonary artery, the blood goes into the lungs where gases exchange take place, and deoxygenated blood convert into the oxygenated blood. From the lungs, this oxygenated blood comes into the left atrium via pulmonary vein, and from there it will passes into the left ventricle, and from the left ventricle it will go into the aorta, and from the aorta it will transport throughout the body. So I already told you about the atrium, that atrium is the receiving chamber, and here is a ventricle, that is the discharging chamber. Discharging chamber means it discharge blood from a ventricle, right? So it discharge right ventricle to the pulmonary artery, and it discharge blood from left ventricle to the aorta. You can see like here. So it discharge blood from right ventricle to the pulmonary artery and discharge blood from left ventricle to the aorta. Now we will see the flow of blood, means how the blood is flow to all over the part of the body. So I already told you that the superior vena cava and inferior vena cava collect blood from upper part of the body and lower part of the body respectively, and collect that blood in the chamber of heart, that is right atrium. From there, so superior and inferior vena cava collect blood in the right atrium, and the blood from right atrium it passes towards the right ventricle. Here it passes in the right ventricle. From the right ventricle the blood pumped into the pulmonary artery, and from the pulmonary artery it will goes into your lungs, and in the lungs gases exchange take place, deoxygenated blood convert into the oxygenated blood, and from the lungs the blood comes into the left atrium via pulmonary veins. Here is pulmonary veins, and from the pulmonary veins it passes into the left ventricle via bicuspid wall, also known as, I already told you, also known as the mitral wall, and from the left ventricle it will goes into the aorta, that is the main artery of our body and the biggest artery of our body we can say, and from the aorta it will goes into are all part of the body, or we can say like throughout the body. Now there is a thing which will be noticed, that the pulmonary artery, here is a pulmonary vein which carry oxygenated blood, right, oxygenated blood from the lungs, and the pulmonary artery which carry deoxygenated blood from the heart. Since we all know that the artery, main function of artery is to carry blood, oxygenated blood towards the heart, and the main function of veins is to carry deoxygenated blood via heart or away from the heart. But there is an exception, that the pulmonary artery carry deoxygenated blood while vein carry oxygenated blood. So this is the exception in the case of pulmonary. So that was my lecture. If you have any doubt, please do comment, and